All right. Well, I'm going to call the July 29, 2025 meeting of the Sandy Springs Development Authority to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Good morning, everybody. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance. Chip Collins.
Present.
Andy Bauman.
I'm president and traveling outside the jurisdiction.
Tasha Battle.
Present.
Hardy Dorsey. Absent. Joe Hausman.
Here.
Sunny Park.
I'm here.
Ed Ukano.
I'm here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, the next item is the approval of the meeting agenda, which was circulated previously. Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the meeting minutes for last.
A second.
Okay. That was agenda. We want an agenda, Jeff.
Pardon the agenda. Thank you.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay. Got a motion to approve the agenda by Mr. Hausman, seconded by Ms. Battle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bauman votes aye.
Okay, motion passes. The next item is approval of the meeting minutes. I would like to note one typo that I saw to only to prove that I read the minutes. But in part 5 of the minutes, I know the description of the site that we're talking about today is listed as 80.1 acres, and it's really 8.1 acres. So I would note that include in anybody's motion to approve. Did anybody else notice any typos that we might want to include in a motion? All right, so with the change from 80.1 acres to describe the property to 8.1, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes with that change?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Battle, second by Mr. Hausman to approve the meeting minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
I vote aye.
Okay, now to the meat. We have new business. This is agenda item DA 2025-11. It is a proposal to authorize the execution of legal documentation for the property on Mount Vernon that we discussed last time in Sandy Springs Circle. Who is presenting this item? Mr. Woodward?
Mr. Chairman, I will start.
Mr. Burnett.
And
All right.
we'll turn it over to Jim and to Dan to close.
Okay.
All right, first of all, Rocky, if you'll put up the memorandum. And before we begin, I just want to apologize. I know I've reached out to each of you individually, apologizing for our moving of the dates on at least 2 or 3 occasions as we've worked through this transaction, all of the legal documents that go along with it. So thank you for your flexibility, and this should do it. We are targeting a closing date no later than the 31st, so later this week. So that was part of the rush for a meeting this week, so we could have everything ratified by the Development Authority. We'll also have a PFA of the Facilities Authority and Council meeting later today to get the votes that we required for the overall transaction. So, Rocky, let's start first with the memorandum dated July 29th to the Sandy Springs Development Authority. That's the agenda. There we go. All right, I had sent this to you all in advance. I want to touch on this very quickly. This is sort of a deal sheet that highlights the terms of the transaction. Of course, our purpose today is to ratify approval of the tax abatement for this project. But I want to refresh your memory because it's been several weeks since we discussed it. This relates to a new construction development project on the site of the Hitson Center, which is just to the southwest corner of where we are now, on 8.1 acres currently owned by the Sandy Springs Methodist Church. It's under contract to sell to a joint venture relationship between the Trammell Crow Company and Third and Urban. It'll be a mixed-use development of approximately 386 total units, 356 of which are traditional stack flat apartments. 30 are traditional townhomes. There'll also be 18,000 square feet of retail and restaurant space. And I think you recall we had a rendering of what the project is going to look like. So to talk about the structure of this, the general terms is such: when we close this transaction, and we'll go into the monetary piece now, on the date of closing later this week, we, the Development Authority, will fund $383,484, of which $165,615 comes directly back to the Development Authority. It'll be the DA's fee for the tax abatement. The other roughly $20,000, a little shy of that, will be dispersed to cover all of the closing costs related to the overall transaction. That includes both buyer closing costs, which is the city, and seller closing costs, which is Trammell Crow. They're selling us easement rights to 111 parking spaces. Within 30 days of that, we will move an additional $3.6 million approximately, or a little bit less than that, into an escrow account that we're establishing with Truist Bank. And those funds will be held and dispersed as the parking lot is built. They'll be dispersed on a percentage of completion basis. We'll have an independent third party representing the city or a member of the city's team that will do site inspections and invoice reviews and approve those prior to the disbursement of dollars. Obviously our goal is to make sure that our money is being put into the project on a prorated basis and that the contractor is not getting ahead of us on the draw request. There is a mechanism in our agreements for disputes. If we believe an invoice, if they are overstating an invoice, for example, they're billing us for work that's not been completed yet, we can file basically a dispute, what's called a dispute memorandum, where we will say, you've requested $200,000 in payment. Our inspectors say you're only due $100,000. We'll withhold the other 100 that we're disputing and go ahead and pay the amount that our inspector has signed off on. But obviously our goal is to make sure that they don't get the money first before we get what's been promised to us, which is 111 parking spaces as part of the total 646 space garage. These funds will be dispersed out over probably a 9-month period, could be 12 months, so over a little bit quicker. It just depends on subsurface conditions, rock issues, if there's any unforeseen construction issues that occur during the project. But we believe it's somewhere between a 9 and 12-month construction project to complete the garage portion. The tax abatement piece, one more piece of funding. You'll recall that in the proposal, we're going to hold back an additional $900,000 that we're going to use for road and streetscape improvements, whether it's increasing public safety through lighted crosswalks or perhaps a traffic signal at Sandy Springs Place or possibly stop signs. All of those things still need to be determined, and we'll do that through a traffic study. But our goal is to create as much downtown safety for pedestrians as we can, slow traffic where we can, again, as part of the safety process, and then streetscapes and landscaping to basically beautify the City Springs corridor. So we'll have $900,000 additional proceeds set aside for that. So when you look at the total package of funding for this, it's capped at $4,877,333. That includes our purchase of 111 spaces in the parking garage and the road improvements that are contemplated and are part of not just this project, but also the improvements to the City Springs in general. So you'll see that number at 4,877,333. And in our contract with Trammell Crow, it is our total cost or investment is capped at that number. So if they have cost overruns that exceed 4,877,333, that's on them. Now we do have a contingency reserve for cost overruns of 5% of the project. And we're paying them a fairly nominal development fee. We're paying them 3.5% to build the parking spaces for us. Relatively inexpensive compared to other contractors. But again, I just want to stress that the maximum city commitment here is 4877333. What you're being asked to approve today is a 10-year tax abatement for this project under the typical Fulton County rules. Once the project is CO'd and the new tax basis value is established, then in year one, they will receive a 50% reduction in taxes, property taxes. And that reduction will decrease by 5% each year, so that by the end of the 10th year, the property will be back to full taxable value. The estimated savings is approaching $4.9 to $5 million based on estimates. We won't know exactly until the county has placed an assessment value on it. But based on using our best estimates and running a spreadsheet, we think we've conservatively estimated that the 4877333 would be the minimum level of tax savings that they'll get. And they are going to, the tax savings that goes to Trammell Crow will be turned over to the city. They will pay us, so as they save tax each year, that will be paid to the city. And we will take, we'll take their property tax payments and apply them against this project. In essence, we'll be recuperating the $4.9 million over the term of 10 years. So we'll be using those tax abatements to pay for this project. If there is any funds above 4877333, then those will go to the benefit of Trammell Crow and their partners. But they won't get those until all of the 4877333 is paid to the city. So that's the core. Any questions on that before Dan and Jim review the legalese?
Can you remind us, Chris, of the road improvements that are part of the project?
Yeah, so there are improvements that we're considering on both Mount Vernon, adjacent to the project, or fronting the north side of the project, and on Sandy Springs Circle. As an example, Sandy Springs Circle in that section is currently only one lane coming northbound, but it's 2 lanes going southbound. That traffic coming down the hill southbound from Mount Vernon to Hammond comes down at a high rate of speed. And we're going to have a traffic study done to determine what options are most logical to slow that traffic through there. Whether it's replacing the right southbound lanes, turning those into parallel parking spaces like we have on the north side. Whether it's extending sidewalks or side paths, whether it's a landscaping strip down the middle of Sandy Springs Circle. We'll be working with Kimley Horn, one of our traffic engineers, and also happens to be the engineer for Trammell Crow of this project. We'll be working together to come up with an assessment of what are the best ways to spend that $900,000. We're also looking at, we've had a stretch of sidewalk on the north side of Mount Vernon that's not been completed for many years. It runs in front of the graves that are just to the west of Sandy Springs Methodist Church. There's a broken area there where the sidewalk goes, it stops, and then you have a stretch where there is no sidewalk, and then it picks up again at Arlington. We'd like to come up, without moving graves, come up with a way to finish that part of the sidewalk so they have a full sidewalk, which would take us all the way from Holy Innocents, far west side, all the way to City Hall, and you'd have a sidewalk the entire length of that path. Because right now, the only section where there's not sidewalk is there in front of the graves at Sandy Springs Methodist Church. So we'd like to include that as part of our project. We won't be doing that. That'll be on, I think the church working with Trammell Crow will be taking care of that initiative, and they'll be funding that. It won't be coming out of our money, but that's part of the streetscape improvements and road improvements that we contemplated.
And since these are to be used by the city and for the city, what's the connectivity between the parking deck and say where we are right now, the City Springs?
So, yeah, so we believe there'll be sort of 3 points of contact. One is you'll be able to come out of the parking garage and walk north up to the corner of Sandy Springs Circle and Mount Vernon. You can either cross there at the church. There's already a crosswalk there at the church. You can cross there and then come down and cross at Sandy Spring Circle to walk to Sandy Spring. You can also come up the sidewalk on Sandy Spring Circle. You can cross Sandy Spring Circle like you're going over to the Heritage House or Williams Payne House, and you could walk up and cross. Or what we're considering is also a crosswalk at Sandy Springs Place, which is where the Heritage Green is, that little road that comes out just north of Kroger. And if we do, we call it a hawk intersection. That's a lighted intersection where pedestrians push a button and the lights come on, traffic stop. If you do that, that's probably the place to do it, so that pedestrians can also come out on that southern end of the garage and walk across Sandy Springs Circle right there at Sandy Springs Place. That's particularly beneficial if they're coming to a concert at Heritage on the Green, or if they're going to, let's say hypothetically, open a restaurant or a coffee shop in the Williams Payne House, which is currently up for lease, and we're considering options for that. If patrons are coming there, they could park in the city's parking garage, cross at Sandy Springs Place and come to a concert or go to the coffee house or go walk their dogs in the park that's adjacent to that back behind Heritage, or they could walk on up the hill and come across to City Springs. So you'll have at least 3 different pedestrian points there.
Okay,
That
great.
will have to improve the slow traffic and improve the safety to get them across the streets.
Actually, that was the first thing come to my mind, the pedestrian safety. Can be dangerous if you have one accident. Thing. Yeah. What is the relationship between Terminal Pro and us? It's 111 parking spaces. Is it under these contract?
So-
That I was ready, but
Yeah, so the Public Facilities Authority, which owner of spaces, will acquire these under a easement acquisition agreement, where we acquire the 111 spaces. And the term of that easement agreement is 50 years. Now, there is a buyout provision, and these are things not that development authorities approve.
what's the amount of buyout?
Well, the buyout is 2 times our investment.
I
So
read it, but I forgot.
yeah, it's about 6.6 million.
Okay.
It does not include 2 times the investment of streetscape, but it's 2 times the investment in the parking spaces themselves. We're currently in the budget, we're paying $3,312,000 for 111 spaces, which is slightly under 30,000 space. Under the agreement, they would pay us about 60,000 a space if they buy us out, and that's $6,624. I'm sorry, $6,624,000 if they decide to buy us out. Now, if they decided to buy us out, it would be because their development had become so popular that they needed more spaces than they'll have. Now, bear in mind, they're going to have 436 spaces, I believe it is, that they will own and control, both in the garage and surface parking. So in their evaluations of the spacing that they need, they are building the amount of spacing for their project that was required to meet their needs. These 111 spaces were added to the project later. You'll remember the story of Councilman Bauman and I sitting at lunch and talking through the idea of parking. Because we know that we currently have 105 spaces at the church that the city uses, especially for our big events when we need more parking than we have here today. Well, as soon as construction begins, those 105 spaces go away. We lose access to those. So in essence, what we're doing is just replacing what we're losing. We're going from 105 to 111. We'll still need more downtown parking as the years come. That will most likely be embedded in the City Springs 2.0 when we do that project at some point in the future. But for now, this at least addresses the 105 spaces we're going to be losing immediately because of the sale of the property from the church to Trammell.
My follow-up question would be, so we're responsible for maintenance or the lighting, all that, utilities, the lighting, that parking space, and also management of gate control of the program.
Yep. So really two answers there. One is that the city and Trammell Crow will work together to select a parking management company.
Right.
It's possible that that company could be 12 Oaks, which currently does our parking here. Or it's possible that together we may decide on another firm. Kristen may know more of this. I think we've been generally pleased with 12 Oaks thus far, but it's still very early in the relationship. But they're on the list to be interviewed as a possible management company for the new parking. Under our agreement, we will prorate the cost of maintaining parking garage. Yeah, we have 17.2% of the total spaces in the garage. And that's calculated by 111 spaces divided by 646 total spaces. We will true up each year as the operating cost is established for things like insurance, utilities, maintenance issues, restriping, whatever it is that's done to keep the lot fresh. We will pay 17.2% of the operating expenses incurred for the garage. We will also get the revenue that's generated by our 111 spaces. And so let's just say we're having a big event and all spaces are sold out and we're earning $10 a space, and that's so over $11,000 that we would earn in revenue for that particular event. So the city gets all revenue on city spaces, and we also share prorated in the expenses to operate it. We don't know at this point if revenue from running the parking operations will be enough to pay expenses. I'm guessing it probably won't, because remember, this is, most people when they come here, they're going to park here first. And so only on the really big events, when we're sold out, like fireworks night, we had 13,000 people here. They're going to be finding every conceivable parking place they can. Those will all be full over there. But on smaller nights, like we had a concert here on Friday night, I'm going to guess there was 3,000 to 4,000 people. That's just a guess. I don't know if we had much, if any, parking across the street. I didn't go over to the church to see, but this lot was pretty well full. But there was enough parking here to accommodate that size crowd. So it's only going to be on our really big nights. Of course, let's just say we're doing the theater, and say City Springs is having a theater event. Their employees and staff are currently parking at the church. So once the new garage is built, we certainly intend for them to park over there so that all of our theater patrons can have plenty of room to park here in the garage.
Will they be charged to park here, the staff for the event? don't know if
I
they're
have
being
not
charged.
spoken with Natalie about how they currently do it and whether we validate for for theater company employees or whether that's covered under agreement. Dan, you might know, but I honestly have not asked Natalie at the theater company whether they pay. Kristen, do you know if they pay us for employee parking?
But currently,
Well,
if somebody parks over there, they don't pay
that's correct.
because it's at the church. It's not been addressed because we haven't had the new arrangement.
Right.
Chris, this is Andy. Can I just jump in for a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but do keep in mind that by having them park over at the church, that frees up space in the deck that we can sell. So there is a value if they were parking in the deck, whether and I'm not sure whether they'd be paying or not, but we're able to attract more patrons over there. I wanted to ask, can I ask a couple of questions? The only thing that pays back our the investment in the spaces, the 3.3 million, is the payments in lieu of taxes, not the revenue we get. Is that correct?
So Andy, the revenue that we collect will almost assuredly go against the expenses.
That's right. But
Yeah.
that's not to reduce in any way their double the amount obligation, meaning the only thing that goes against the double the obligation to buy us out double are their payments in lieu of taxes. Is that right?
The formula is based on the total amount of revenue collected and the total amount of tax abatements collected.
Oh, okay. So
it's credited against the 6,624,000.
But do we get to credit the revenue against expenses before it gets credited against the double?
The agreement is not drawn up like that.
Okay. So any monies received, so if they pay us, they pay us out, let's assume they've paid us out over the 10 years, the 3.3 million. Obviously they're paying us more because but only the 3.3 million goes to the deck, or is that not true? So if when they've paid us 4 million over the 10 years, the $4.8 million, what is their buyout at that point?
It would be $6,624,000.
Not reduced by the monies they've previously paid us?
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. That would, the base level before deductions or credits is 6,624 minus what they've paid in taxes to date and minus parking revenue.
Okay. All right. I understand that. I actually had one other question for you. Regarding the $900,000 of street repairs, would any of those repairs have been or not repairs, enhancements, because they're not repairs, they're enhancements. Would any of those been obligations of this developer? Are we doing things that on their behalf, or are these extra things that we're doing?
So Councilman, anything that we pull from this pot would be outside of what they are required to do. So they're actually currently working on their traffic study for this
Right.
development. And within that, the traffic study will tell us what improvements they are required to make as part of their development. Once we know that, we'll be able to better determine what improvements we'll make with these additional funds.
Right, but so just I want to be very clear. We are not in any way taking on developer responsibility fall 100% to their ledger. Is that right?
Correct. We are not.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to clear that up. Thank you.
Chris, let me ask something real quick. This came up at the last meeting. What's the status of the water tower that runs that? Is that going to be affected?
So that's been resolved. City of Atlanta's water tower. There's been a lot of banter back and forth. City of Atlanta was trying to create what they call a fall zone, where they would have a buffer zone where there would be no structures built. So if it fell. The city, and Dan may know more, the city has no filed, City of Atlanta water has no filed easements on the water tower. They have no ability to restrict development of the site because of the water tower. My understanding that has now been fully resolved. The city is not going to try to put in place a fall. The reality is Hitson Center is already within what would have been the fall radius.
We can find no rule or reg that requires that, and the tile doesn't. The line has never purchased such a easement.
So the tower will remain, Joe. They will not impede the building and forward with the project.
Chris, I apologize if you covered this, but is there a temporary arrangement to make up for the loss of parking that we're going to get while this is under construction?
I don't know if we formalized that. I know we are we will be taking down 2 of the buildings on Hildebrand. The old mechanics building that was used for a period as a fleet building, the old dry cleaner building. Chris and I believe our plan is to gravel that, and that could be some parking. So I'm not sure how many cars that would handle, but between the 2 lots, I'm guessing it's going to be at least 50 to 60 vehicles, hopefully, between those 2. Yeah. But outside of that, Chip, I don't know if we have a plan today to replace all 105.
No, that makes sense. That you got some other left.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
Dan.
I wanted to add real quickly before we get to Jim's memo on this, but one important issue for this board in deciding whether to use an abatement or not is the impact on our taxing partners. And I would hasten to point out to the board that this property currently pays no property tax. That this abatement is truly an incentive to develop the property in a manner that is already zoned for this kind of development. So at the end of the day, it is bringing to the table, at the end of the abatement, the 10-year abatement, almost $2 million a year in revenue to the taxing authorities, most of which would go obviously to the school board.
Yeah,
That's
new money.
Are you done, Dan?
No, just real quick, I want to make one other point. This kind of goes to what Councilman Bowman was talking about. Notwithstanding the fact that all the city entities that are involved in this, we're striking a deal today probably with the development authority. The Public Facilities Authority is going to strike a deal on the parking. When all that dust settles and they start constructing, they're going to be just like anybody else in Sandy Springs, having to adhere to all the rules, all the regs, the development rules. When this traffic study comes back, they'll have to do whatever they get. And there's no provision in our ordinances that says, here's the rule, unless you're doing business with the Facilities Authority and the Development Authority. So all those rules will be applied for development and the improvements of the streetscape and all that over there.
All right, those are great points, Mr. Parker.
Dan covered some of my questions. Yeah, that, I really like that. It's a new tax money that we haven't seen. However, there's a trade with 600 more cars coming in that corner. That's the one we have to suffer from. I don't know, is the right word, suffer.
Right.
Yeah.
I think plan for.
Mr. Conn?
Mr. Chairman, real quick to speak to that. That's why I brought up the fact that this property is already zoned for apartments. Notwithstanding the abatement, they could build these apartments tomorrow and have 600 cars, 600 parking places.
Right.
So the abatement doesn't necessarily enhance that. And it's a great issue and one I submit to you. The Mayor and Council has toils over daily.
Just needed to reaffirm this in the unlikely event that there are cost overruns due to unforeseen natural or whatever causes. Do we have any additional exposure to that, or would it cap that 4.8?
Yeah, so in our agreement with Trammell Crow, our total financial investment exposure is capped at 4877333. So regardless of whatever else happens, now what would probably, not probably, what would end up happening? Let's say we get into the project and we do uncover really some bad soils that won't compact, or a heavy vein of rock that was not picked up in geotech studies. And it's going to be another $500,000 just for city spaces, which is extreme, but we'll use that. We have that $900,000 cushion out there in addition to the reserve. We've already set aside a 5% reserve, which is $115,000. And we have another $900,000 bucket. We would not want to use it for these spaces, but that gives us a good bit of cushion, and any cost overruns that resulted as part of garage construction have to be shared on a 83%, 17% basis. Unless somehow they could drill down that only because of our 111 spaces that these overruns occur. And obviously, if that happens, we'd have to get into an arbitration scenario, I imagine, if they tried to put all the costs back on the city.
And let me hasten to add, that is with between the Public Facilities Authority and Crown Control. The Development Authority if you choose to vote on this abatement, has no liability, none, notwithstanding any kind of cost overrun.
Chris, part of our statutory authority requires us to only be able to approve projects that positively affect jobs in Sandy Springs. So just give us the support for that piece of this.
So didn't bring those numbers with me, but so in terms of jobs in the near term, and Jim, I believe we had those in our application to the county, correct?
Yep, and let me jump in here, kind of where we're on the calendar. But basically, the only role the Development Authority has in this is providing the tax incentive to Trammell Crow, and that's for not the parking deck particular, but basically their whole development out there. So they have a commercial residential development which also has this parking deck, and so back on June 5th, the Development Authority approved the bond resolution and all the tax incentive documents for that project, and it's really all the jobs created by the construction jobs for the full Trammell Crow project, plus the commercial stores that'll be going in and everything else. And so that's really the role of the Development Authority has in this is providing a tax incentive for the full project that the private group is doing, Trammell Crow is doing. And so that portion was approved, and that's what we presented on June 5th. And then we submitted that for bond validation. The bond validation hearing was July 7th. And then the Board of Tax Assessors approved the tax incentive last Thursday. And so all the steps really for the tax incentive have been done, and the jobs that y'all are, that again, y'all's charge is, that's right, is to promote trade, commerce, and industry and reduce unemployment or really create jobs. That's the jobs created by this full project, not really the parking deck. It's the full project is what y'all providing. So kind of where we're on the calendar is that all the parking agreement, everything else, the Development Authority is not a party to that at all. That's really the public, Sandy Springs Public Facilities Authority is buying parking spots basically from Trammell Crow entity. And they'll be approving an agreement later today to buy those spots. And the costs are kind of what Chris walked through, what the costs are. But really, Development Authority is not buying them or really a party to the parking spots. But really, all we're doing here today is just approving this memorandum of agreement, which is between the Development Authority, the Public Facilities Authority, and Trammell Crow entity, where every year during the tax incentive, Trammell Crow agrees to make a payment, reimbursement payment for some of the costs of the parking deck. And so y'all are party to that agreement. So it's really just y'all being a party to something where the company agrees to pay you back, a portion of the savings that they receive from the tax incentive. So that's kind of the action item today is really y'all agreeing to this final agreement. And we didn't present this at the June 5th meeting because the terms hadn't been finalized yet. We didn't know what the purchase price was or some other items. And so so now it's in final form and ready to go. So that's really the action item for us today is approving this agreement.
Just we're just talking about the memorandum agreement, not this entire stack that's before me.
That's correct. So the purchase easement agreement, and then also the acquisition agreement. The Development Authority is not a party to those. So the parking spots, the management of the parking spots, or anything else, really that's more for y'all's information. But that's really between the PFA / city and Trammell Crow, whereas our role in this is, as the Development Authority, is providing the tax incentive, and that's what was approved on June 5th.
So we've already approved the underlying
tax abatement
agreement, et cetera.
That's right.
Exactly. That was presented.
I'm looking in my stack. It's the memorandum agreement?
That's right.
The title memorandum agreement?
Yep, it's titled memorandum agreement. It is among the Development Authority, the Public Facilities Authority, and Sandy Springs owner, which is Trammell Crow. So basically that's the agreement where the Trammell Crow entity is going to make reimbursement payments over the term.
I see a memorandum agreement between the city and the Development Authority and the owner, but I don't see one with
It's right here.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I actually have the one that we're.
This is the one you're acting on.
Okay. Do I have that in front of me, or you're about to give it to me? Okay.
I'll wait till you voted on it, make it.
Yeah, I want to at least make sure I laid eyes on it before we vote on it. Okay, well, for everybody's edification, mercifully, this is just a one-page document. So
I think it's just the first page of
for voting on it, you ought to be able to describe this one pager in 1 or 2 sentences. What's the meeting of minds that we're agreeing to here?
Yeah, so basically, as a Development Authority, you agree to receive payments every year from Trammell Crow entity, which is equal to the amount of tax incentive they're receiving on the project until a certain dollar amount that what was the dollar amount? The $4 million amount is hit.
I say it's a one-page document. I think I missed.
No, you just have the one page.
Is that all?
Yeah.
No, it's multiple pages.
Multiple page. You just have the one page.
Okay. All right.
That's the one that,
Then it's gonna take more than 1 or 2 sentences.
yeah, and that's the one that's up on the screen right now. And so, but basically, this is the agreement.
Hold on, Jim. Mr. Parker has a question.
Now look at the 111 spaces, about 6%, less than 6% of a 646 space.
Mhm.
Wonder how justify that to pay 17% of the total cost, I mean, maintenance cost. I was thinking they're more than what we should pay, in my opinion.
That's one, yeah, that's 111.
My math was math.
Yes, sir. It's 17.18%.
That's how that come up with?
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
we rounded to
I should never say
17.
that, show my ignorance, my bad.
So where's the whole agreement? It's not in the stack,
Yeah,
right?
it's up on the screen. If y'all can see it on y'all screen, I see it there.
We don't have a hard copy of it.
Let's see here. If you,
Back, I can print it. Chris, does he have a hard?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, Chip, it's, Dan, I know I printed it in the package.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is in the package. You've got it.
It's in there.
It's probably towards the bottom.
that's not it. I don't have it. Anybody have it?
I don't think it was printed.
Print a copy.
Well, it was the very last document I printed at the time. But let me grab another.
Well, before we vote, do I have the ability to read it after and make sure it says what we think it says? Okay, then I'm fine with that.
Shouldn't we all have a copy?
I mean,
If we're voting on it?
ideally, yes.
I can do
I mean, it's not mandatory, it's just.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
if we're, I mean, let me ask the group. Does the group want to see and have a chance to read through the entire agreement or whatever part you want to read? Or are we okay with having our council summarize it? And then I'll read through it or assign it and make sure it accurately reflects what's presented to us.
I'm okay with that.
What's the group want to do?
I'm okay with council reading.
Okay. All right, everybody's okay with that?
So, it should be on your phone because
Yeah, I have it on.
It is, it was,
Well, I did see.
look, as long as we have the opportunity to see it, then I'm fine with it. So it was part of the package circulated.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
it.
no, this was in the package.
Yeah, that's what, I'm just making sure, Andy, only because.
Oh, yeah, no, I want to make sure, it's clear that we have received the document.
No, that's what I'm making clear for the record.
Okay.
Right?
Because I've gone through the package.
We have seen the document. It's just not part of the signature package that was.
Okay.
And I'm guessing to make our staff happy that the signature package is for things that we've already approved. And that's why it's not in the signature package. So everybody's had a chance to read it, and Jim's going to continue his summary for us.
okay, great. And really, there's even though it's a few more pages than one page, it's really the heart of it has to do with just the agreement of the company to make payments. But I'll kind of go through this. And I guess it's on my screen. Can y'all see it on the screen that y'all looking at? Is it presented there?
Yes.
Yeah, if y'all can scroll down, we can kind of use that as a review. So basically, the first few pages are really just reps and warranties, which basically say who the Public Facilities Authority is, who the Development Authority is, and who the company is. And those are standard reps, really no contractual agreements there, but it's basically saying who the parties are and why they're allowed to be part of this agreement. So you can scroll down from there. Same thing, that's the company's reps. Then section 2 is consideration. Basically why we're entering into this, why each party is a part of this agreement. And really, section 3 is the heart of it. Everything after section 3 is really just notices and things like that. And basically, what it says is that the companies will receive a tax incentive every year equal to this. And this is part of the tax abatement deal or tax incentive deal that y'all approved earlier and is ready to be signed. You all move forward with closing this week. But basically says of the savings you receive pursuant to the tax incentive, which is separate documents. Scroll down. You will basically starting the first year you receive the tax incentive, you're going to repay us a certain amount up until we receive the 4 million. It's a little bit different. That bracketed number is 4,882,847. That's been finalized as the 4 million. 4 million. 877,333 is the final number. And so once the company pays that amount, then basically this agreement goes away. But basically it provides that the company for the next 7, 8, 9 years will be making payments to really the PFA through us, Development Authority, equal to that amount until they hit that amount. And so that's kind of hard to track transaction is that the company is going to pay us money for the next 8, 9 years till we hit that dollar amount. And you scroll down the next section 4. Again, that's just a 5 effective date of term. It goes until really they pay us in full. And miscellaneous is this, notices, things like that. So no real agreements there as well. So really, all this agreement does is requires Trammell Crow entity to make payments to us over a term of years until we hit a certain dollar amount.
Gotcha. Ms. Battle?
So on page 6, just so I'm clear, as we're discussing before you sign this, am I accurate that in the second paragraph, that 4.8 or that 4,882,847 should be the 87733?
That's correct. That's correct.
That,
And so,
that amount to be edited.
Right. So the draft we have, we got final comments last night, and that was agreed upon final term. And that's the dollar amount that Chris had in his presentation too, is the 4,877,333. So that'll be the amount that gets reimbursed to us. And that was kind of the final, is kind of keyed off the final purchase price that the PFA is paying to buy these spots.
And this number is even, may vary even again, because we're going to use actual numbers
Right.
of the construction. This is the guess at what it's going to cost.
Okay.
Not to exceed.
Okay.
So it's either that amount or again, that second one is the amount the PFA actually pays the company for the purchase price. And how that works is, the PFA is buying the parking spots, and they're kind of putting in an escrow of their purchase price. And if the cost of the spots go higher based on construction costs, they owe a little bit more for their purchase price. And so it's really, that's the estimate of what's going to cost, but it could go up, based on, hitting bedrock or anything else that might happen during construction.
Right. Okay. Any other questions for Jim? Any other questions for anybody else before before I ask for a motion? Okay, well, I'm gonna ask for a motion on DA 2025-11 to authorize the execution of these documents. Do I have a motion?
That's cute.
And I'll make.
Well, hold on, Ms. Battles. Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
I move that we accept the authorization to
Okay.
execute the document
Second.
for
Second.
DA
Excellent.
2025.
Right. All right, we've got a motion by Ms. Battle to approve EA 2025-11, seconded by Mr. Park. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes.
Chip,
Yes, sir.
before we adjourn, let me ask, first of all, what time is the PFA meeting? Just remind me so I can be on that.
Yeah,
1:30.
it starts at 1:30. I need to send you a separate invite to that one.
All right, so 1:30 East Coast time. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. But I want to say thank you, Dan, to you, to Jim, Chris. It's nice that we had this idea, and I think it's a really solid deal for the city. When you look through at the economics, one thing we haven't mentioned is that, we're also not being charged for any of the land the underlying land. I mean, we're literally just paying for costs and a small development fee. And the money that's being used to repay us is taxes we don't receive anyway right now. And the taxes that are paid really are only 15 cents on the dollar for the city. But there was a lot of complications with this. So Dan, really thank you. And Chris, thank you for making the details come to life and seeing this through.
If I could echo something, we take for granted, Jim Woodward in many aspects, and this is not a slant on other law firms, but there are two major law firms involved in this discussion that I'll just be very blunt because I'm old and I can do that. They've overcomplicated this matter, and Jim and his firm, people call it boutique, has done a great job of clarifying, simplifying, coordinating the different city entities that we have. To Councilman Bauman's point, Jim makes this easy, and I want to thank you publicly, Jim, for that hard work.
Well, thank you. I appreciate working with you guys.
Well, we're lucky to have Jim as a resource, and Dan and our great staff. And Chris, we appreciate all of y'all. And then I'll mention one thing. Sandy Springs United Methodist Church is one of the oldest entities in this area. And I think they were some of the first pioneers here on that spot of land. And they have been searching for a long time for the right partner, the right property, the right project to do something with on this south side of the property that they've had for years and years. And so we appreciate the church and all of our other schools and churches and synagogue partners that make this city great. This is an example of how we all work together to make the city better and better. So with that, one little piece before we adjourn, one little piece of new business we discussed for our next meeting. I don't think we have any more projects in the pipeline, but I suggested, and I believe it's well received, that for our next meeting, we have an afternoon meeting that we can follow with a social happy hour somewhere here on campus. What's our next scheduled meeting?
September 14th. I might have made up the date.
First Thursday of September, second.
It should be
And-
like Thursday,
Second Thursday?
the 11th.
Okay, so maybe we could schedule that meeting for either 4 o'clock or 4:30. And then it might be a good time for us to get in a fun frame of mind and talk about some things that we might want to do. We are getting a nice fee out of this project, so the authority will have some funds to do some things with, and we can continue to, we've had these conversations before, but brainstorm about some real projects, and maybe staff can bring us some ideas as well, and we can talk about those sorts of things that further our mission as an authority, and then we will adjourn to the bar. Is everybody okay with that?
It's actually October 9th. I'm sorry.
October
It's
9th?
not it's once a quarter.
That's
Yes.
right, yeah.
Okay.
So you said September 11th.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do that. That will be, we'll just call that part of the birthday, my 60th birthday celebration on the 5th. So that'll, I'm gonna celebrate for a full year, so we're gonna call that one. Yep. Okay, then October 9th, we like 4 o'clock or 4:30? What's everybody think?
1:30.
Okay, all right, then let's do 4:30 on October 9th.
October, September.
It's October, we figured it out. Yep. Okay, with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Mr. Yukonu, second by Mr. Hausman. We are all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, we adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Andy, have fun in
Andy.
Norway.
Have a good day.
All right. I'll see